Okay, so thank you for agreeing to sit down and talk to us. Definitely been trying to get you in for an interview for a little minute now. But thank you for coming and sitting down and talking to us. And we're gonna get into the tea. We're gonna get into all the shady stuff. But first, how is Melody? How are you doing?
You know what? I am really thankful. That's the word I actually put on my story a lot because I'm very just thankful that despite everything, you know what I'm saying, that has happened, I continue to be able to be in my right mind, still move forward, still boss up and accomplish things that I've desired to accomplish. And definitely, of course, the number one reality TV show, Love and Marriage Huntsville. Definitely choosing to be authentic and transparent when it came to, because I could have very well, put on this different persona and hid all of my marital issues and acted like everything was perfect if that's what I chose to do. But I chose to be transparent and to literally share my emotions, to share my pain, to share even the happy times, to share that with the world, So I'm just thankful that I've been able to publicly, go through the things I've gone through and still come out on top.
Yeah, I think the transparency that you have on the show with your fans, even on social media, is something that people really respect about you. Why was it important for you to be transparent and kind of, for lack of a better word, air out your dirty laundry, in front of the world?
I will say, always be the person to be real and honest about your situation. Don't ever allow an opportunity for someone else to hold something over your head or to, worry that it's gonna come out eventually. Be honest, be straight up. That's the only way I know to be. I've always been that way. And so I knew that if I wanted to do reality TV, I wanted it to be real for me. Yeah. I wanted it to be real for me. And so many times, especially as women, we feel like we're going through things and we're going through them alone, or it's just us. And especially in the Black community, we're told what goes in behind these doors, stay in the house. What happened in the house, stay in the house, right? We're told that. And so you end up having a lot of people who are growing up with different traumas that they're holding on to, which is creating traumatized adults who are emotionally immature, who are spiritually, immature, and adults that are literally living in trauma and aren't healed, right? And so I just knew that I definitely wanted to be straightforward with where I was in my life at that time. Did I think that I would eventually end up divorced? Absolutely not.
Yeah. I think that was something that nobody, obviously you didn't see it coming, but being somebody that watched the show since the first season, you guys were so well put together. Y'all were that family. You know what I'm saying? You guys were that family. And so I think that curveball was something that really threw people for a loop. And obviously you guys are the ones that are living it. So what was it like for you to kind of go through that process from obviously season 1 to now season 4, where you guys have 4 children, you guys are divorced, you guys do have these spats and combative nature toward each other? How have you kind of navigated that?
So first, I want to definitely shout out, family, friends, supporters of the show who continuously, kept us in their prayers, right? So appreciative of that. Shout out to Carlos King. Like he said from the gate, I'm going to hold your hand through this. We got this. We're going to be all right, And so just having support from people definitely helped navigate some of that. And I think being willing to take time to reflect, to, just sometimes go back in those moments and see maybe what would you have done differently? What could you have done differently? Would you have done anything differently? Because sometimes the answer is I wouldn't have done nothing differently. It was still, I would have handled it the exact same way. But taking some time to self-reflect, taking some time to spend some time, as I always say that isolation brings about elevation. So for me, at times, I would disappear from social media.
Yeah.
I would give myself a social media break, and spend time working on me and healing so that I wouldn't be one of those people who end up being a traumatized adult for the rest of my life or an unhealed adult for the rest of my life. Yeah. So it was important for me to take care of me and of course to take care of my babies during the process.
Yeah. How are they doing through this transition? Because I can only imagine they are fairly young. I can only imagine how confusing it is for them at this point. How are they dealing with, their dad no longer being in the house?
So, of course, they've gotten a lot better, of course. So we have joint custody. So they're with me 1 week, they're with him 1 week. It's still very much so different for them because they were used to mom and dad and, us being in the same house, us taking trips together, us going out to dinner together. And unfortunately, sometimes you're in a situation to where you have to put certain boundaries in place where you may wish that you could still sometimes do family dinners or do things so the kids feel great. Sometimes people don't really make you feel comfortable to do that, and because of that, you end up being in situations to where that's not happening and the kids are feeling the effects of the divorce even more because it's a cold cut.
Yeah.
But I do my part to try to make sure that I'm not raising traumatized adults, if that makes sense. So I have them in therapy. They have an amazing village of my friends, of our family, loved ones who love on them, who spend time with them, and just try as best as possible to have as much normalcy as possible. And of course, for me, I work super hard to make sure that they are still getting the same lifestyle that they were accustomed to before the divorce. So that's why I work super hard to make sure that they're good and they're not feeling bad.
Yeah. Do you think they're aware of what's going on as per the show? Like, do you think they've seen any of the things that have happened? Because y'all have gotten into it. Y'all have definitely gotten into it. And I know that that's something that, a lot of parents tried to shield their children from in the midst of a divorce.
Absolutely. So at one point, I would say they weren't aware of a lot of things pertaining to social media because they don't have social media accounts. They're 10, 9, 6, and 2. Mm-hmm. And so they were shielded a lot at first. Now, as of late, as in the past, like 6 months, I'm learning they go on YouTube.
Yes.
Because they say but we wouldn't let them watch the show. If there was a scene that they were in, we would allow them to watch that scene. Mm-hmm. But other than that, we wouldn't even let them watch the show. So they had been shielded for quite some time. But as they're getting older, and they know how to go on the computer and go to youtube.com, they definitely see a little bit more.
Yeah. And I wonder if that's something, obviously Martell's not here to speak on his own behalf, but I wonder if that's something that either of you guys consider when certain things are happening on the show, because I know he's had some choice words for you and you've had some choice words for him. So are those conversations that you currently have with your children regarding, the things that you guys have said to each other?
No, they haven't necessarily asked anything about what we've said to each other. No.
Okay. And I just want to make one more thing crystal clear before we continue. Are you going by Melody Holt or are you going by Melody Shari? That's your middle name, right?
Melody Shari. Mm-hmm.
Melody Shari. Okay. Are you going by Melody Shari or are you still going by Melody Holt?
So I am going by Melody Shari. Okay. My management team fortunately has submitted my information for my handles to be changed. So I'm waiting on that. But I am going by Melody Shari. I've already, to be honest with you, I actually had reached out to my attorney to do an official legal name change, right? And so I was planning on doing that process, thought it would be something, in 30 days or less, name change, no big deal. And then I found out that because I am currently in a custody battle, that I'm unable to change. So if you have any other proceeding happening in the state, you can't change your last name at the time. Okay. And so because unfortunately I am dealing with that, I can't legally change my name yet.
Okay. A lot of your fans, I've been seeing the talks on social media. A lot of your fans seem to think that you are not going to change your last name because your children have that last name. That's your, that's the family name. And that's the name that's on the business that you help to cultivate. How do you feel about that?
I definitely understand, where they're coming from, and I understand how maybe they could see things that way. Me making the decision to change my last name had nothing to do with anyone, to be honest with you. Literally, I was the same way. That's why I can say I understand, because I remember people used to ask me, when are you going to change your last name? Are you going to change your last name? And my answer was, no. I was married. My children's last name is Holt. So I'm going to keep that last name. And literally one day I was in my kitchen, and I remember I was reaching up in my medicine cabinet to grab something, and it dropped in my spirit, change your last name. That day I hit my management team and I was like, hey, I'm changing my last name. The next day I reached out to my attorney. How do I start the process to change my last name? Because one thing about me is when I feel something in my spirit, when God says go, on anything, I'm on it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, let's go. That's all I need. When I feel that in my spirit, that's it. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks, what anybody else's opinion is. It doesn't matter. So I started moving on it. And like I said, because of the fact that I am being sued for custody, I can't do it. So
how do you feel about that? The custody suit that's going on right now?
It's very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. I mean, we've been doing week on, week off, or when I first left in 2020, sometimes 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, whatever. We've been doing an exchange for a long time. So it's very interesting is what I'll say.
What is it that he's seeking? Does he want full custody, or he just wants joint custody?
We already have joint custody.
Yeah. Okay. So he's looking for full custody.
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right. That's why it's interesting. Okay. Yeah. I'm here with you. I'm here with you. Okay. All right. So speaking of, we know God says go is one of your mottos. It's part of your brand. It's part of who you are now. Do you think that had anything to do with your decision to file for divorce? Because I know, on previous episodes, you kind of revealed that, there were points in time where Martell wasn't being faithful and things like that, but you guys were trying to work through it. And then, the baby came, and, it just started to things just started to roll out of control. But do you think those are the only things that had to do with the divorce, or were there underlying things that we hadn't seen or don't know about?
So let me say this. Whenever I chose to walk away from my marriage in April of 2020, I didn't even know about another child at that time. Not at all.
Okay.
So it had nothing to do with that. It had everything to do with me recognizing that a person that I'd already given years to grow up, to get themselves together, to put their family first, it wasn't happening. And I recognized that mindset just in conversation, you know what I'm saying? Just in certain movement. And I had nobody had told me he was doing anything. Nobody had, really, no one had, hit me up and said he was doing anything. I hadn't heard anything. It was literally listening. And I'm like, these conversations showing this person still is at zero. You haven't grown any, even though I've given you years to grow. Yeah. And so that point for me, I'll be honest with you. Once I had Melanie, Sugar Mama, I was literally in the hospital when they took me to my room the next day, and I got in the shower and I just broke out crying while I was in the shower. I just started crying. And I felt in my spirit, it is finished.
Yeah.
And I knew then that if anything felt off, if anything felt anything, I was out, because God said go. That was my release. And I had been waiting on that. There were times, I would be in my closet crying. I would be in my shower at home crying. And I would be like, God, when you gonna release me? Like, because I ain't felt the release yet. You know what I'm saying? And that was tough, because at times I would find myself, you know how we do as women, especially if your man ain't doing right by you. You ain't finna cook nothing, you ain't finna clean nothing. Don't ask me to do nothing. Okay. And seriously, and I would go through that at times, but then I would check myself. You know what I'm saying? Either me checking myself, or certain friends of mine who've been married and divorced, checking me and being like, look, Mel, you keep doing what you're supposed to do as a wife, because that's what God is going to honor. So I'm still over here after I done had my little maybe week or two where I ain't doing nothing. I'm back cooking. I'm back cleaning, back doing the laundry. I'm like, okay, God, you know?
Yeah.
So it got to the point where it was like, okay, God, when are you gonna release me? Because then a few months later, there's something else. Mm-hmm. Then we're good. Then a few months later, there's something else. And so after I had Melanie and I felt that release, like I said, I knew then, if anything, if I felt anything, I was out. And we were literally in the middle of the pandemic. She was only 3 months old and I was gone. I left. I left.
How difficult would you say it was for you to make that decision at that point in time?
At that point in time, it was actually, believe it or not, easy. Easy. I have had moments where I've walked away and left and gone back. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But this particular time, again, because of that release spiritually, it wasn't that difficult for me. Did I still have my moments of hurt and disappointment that my marriage didn't work? Absolutely, right? Nobody thinks they're going to have a newborn baby and be leaving a marriage of over 11, 12 years, right? So absolutely, it was moments when, you know, I felt the pain from it, absolutely. But in terms of regretting, double thinking it, I didn't go through that this time. So I'll tell anyone, you know, do not walk away from a situation until you feel. Don't let nobody tell you when you should walk away. Don't let anyone tell you, you know, when you should stay. Like, listen to your intuition. And our intuition, especially as women, is God's gift to us in terms of how he communicates with us. We just got to be willing to listen.